Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AMPM podcast. My name is Manny and I will be your host, and this is the show where we discuss all things Amazon private label and how to generate recurring revenue streams 24 hours per day during the AM and the PM, hence the name of the show. Get it? AMPM podcast. As a matter of fact, and don't worry, this is not a spoiler alert, but last night I was watching Game of Thrones, probably just like most of you out there, and while I was admiring how realistic those dragons looked, I was making money. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. What's up, everybody? Manny Coates here, and I am joined by my good friend, Kevin King. He's got the big globe behind you. You're very worldly. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing today, Manny?
I am excellent. Those of you that know me know that me and Kevin go way back. As a matter of fact, we go all the way back to episode 33 of the AMPM podcast. So if you guys have not heard of Kevin King or don't know the nuggets that spew from this guy, you need to actually go check out episode 33. He dropped massive bombs all over the place, and it was just awesome. Do you remember those days?
I do remember those days. You broke me in. You were my first one.
That made you famous, that one.
That's right.
I think people were saying that was the best podcast ever. So, but yeah, a little bit about Kevin. Actually, you know what, Kevin? Let me do this. I'm going to pull up my typical notes that I have for when I bring somebody on, just in case somebody hasn't heard of you or they don't know who you are. How about some rapid fire? Let's see if we can get through this like in 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes tops.
Sure.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right. So, Kevin, as far as, correct me if I'm wrong here, you did $1.2 million last year, and you've already done more than that this year, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. That's Amazon only.
Yeah, that's just on Amazon. I sell on other platforms, but that's just on Amazon US.
Okay, cool. And that's all private label?
All private label.
How many ASINs make up that number?
It's about 12 to 15. I'm discontinuing a few right now, so I think I have about 12 or so active.
Okay. And what countries do you sell in currently?
Just the U.S. is most of my business, but I do have a few products in Canada, Amazon Canada.
Okay. How much money did you start your business with, Amazon business?
I started with, I was a little different than most people. I started with about $100K because I developed a couple custom products that cost me quite a bit in molding costs and stuff to get going.
Okay, cool. Do you source only from China right now?
No, I have China is primarily where I source from, but I also have several vendors here in the United States that are U.S.-based suppliers.
Cool. And how many people work in your business with you?
It's just me. I'm a one-man show. I've
Crazy.
got one assistant that does a few things on my social media side, but it's just me.
How many hours per night do you sleep?
Last night I slept about 2.
Oh my God.
But most nights I sleep a little bit more. It's just right now it's a crazy time. Launching some new stuff, getting ready for the fourth quarter. Have a big event coming up that's taking a lot of my time. So it's crazy times.
Yeah, sounds like it. All right, cool. So that's, I think that was rapid fire. We got through that pretty quickly. Any questions you wanted me to ask you that I didn't, in case anybody wants to know something?
No, that's it, man.
All right, cool. You got positive profit margins, I hope?
I do. I run about it depends on, if you're doing launches or not, but after everything's said and done, between 19 and 25% profit margin.
Okay, cool. So we are going to, we haven't done this in a while. We used to do webinars and we would give this amazing value and people loved them. And then after that, we started doing some Illuminati mastermind stuff. You're one of the lead mentors in there and people love that. We're going to get back to doing some webinars for, I guess, the beginners and people who are starting and wanting to do more. But we wanted to give them a podcast where they would get a lot of information and, just kind of tease towards or to what's coming. What do you think?
That sounds good to me.
All right. So I have questions. I have, looks like, were you going to say something, Kevin?
No, so you said you had questions. I'm like, I gotta get ready, man. Here we go.
I have 5 questions.
Questions coming.
I know. People like my questions. They say I get right to the point.
All right, don't stump me now.
I'm gonna try not to. So we'll go through these backwards. I'm gonna start with number 5 and get all the way to number 1, and it's gonna be about product sourcing, product discovery, just trying to figure out what someone should sell, because I think that's probably one of the It's the biggest obstacles people have. They get a lot. I know people that want to get into this business. They start to do it, and 2-3 months in, they still haven't figured out, what they want, and they never move forward because of that. So if somebody is actually moving forward, and I've heard horror stories where people are just ordering too much inventory. They get into cash flow issues. They're not ordering enough inventory and end up running out of stock. How much product do you think a seller, somebody who's starting out, really needs to order to be on the safe side?
Well, that all depends, on how competitive the product is and what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to be in the top 3 or 4 positions on page 1 of a very competitive product, or are you just trying to make 5 or 10 sales a day and you're completely happy with that? So I see a lot of people that actually, say, let's test a product. Let's go out and order 20 of this or 50 of that. And there's a lot of people that subscribe to that. I absolutely do not subscribe to that. I think it's a complete and utter waste of time to order 20 or 50 something and quote unquote see if they sell, because you're putting a lot of effort into it. I'd rather put that effort in and use the data that various tools will allow you to use and that Amazon provides themselves to actually make a smart, intelligent decision. And now you don't want to go overboard, but that's what I like to do. And let's throw everything at it. If you're going to do this, don't come to play in the kiddie playground. Come to swing and hit a home run. So depending on how much money you have to start with, that can dictate where you play and which products you might choose to do. But let's say you found a product and that's reasonable, and you do have some money, you have a few $1,000s or $5,000, whatever it may be to come with. What I like to do is use a little formula that will kind of, after I've done my research, there's a lot that goes into the research, and I think we might talk about that in a webinar or something that we might do sometime. But I like to take these numbers and to determine it. So what I like to do is, once I've zeroed in on a product that I think might work for me, based on the keywords, based on a lot of other data, is I use this formula where I take the manufacturing time and I add that to the shipping time, and then I add 10 days as a buffer, and then I add 30 days to it, because I always want to be in stock for at least 30 days on Amazon, because typically on Amazon, if you go below 30 days worth of stock, it can actually affect your ranking. Amazon likes to see, typically, give or take, it's in the different categories, around 150 units in stock, and that can weigh into your ranking and what they show you. So I always like to have at least 30 days in stock. So let's use this formula where you say your manufacturing time, let's say it takes 25 days to manufacture a product over in China and to get it inspected. And then let's say you're putting it on the water. If you're flying it, it could be quicker, but let's say it has to come by sea. Let's say that takes 30 days for it to come over by sea, to go through customs and to get checked in and arrive to Amazon. And then I like to add 10 extra days to that. That's where that third part of the formula is the 10 extra days, because the 10 extra days is, you never know if something's going to go wrong. The port's closed, it's a holiday, it gets held up in customs for extra inspection, whatever. And then I add that 30 days. So let's say it takes 25 days to make it, 30 days on the water, and then you add the 10 extra days, and that equals 65. 25 plus 30 plus 10 equals 65. Then I like to keep 30 days worth of stock, so that equals 95, if you add all those 4 together. And then if you're doing a product launch, you might want to buffer it a little bit more, because you're going to be giving away a little bit more at the beginning if this is a new product, perhaps, depending on your strategy. So let's say I'm doing a 10-day product launch. So I'm going to add another 10 to that. So if you add all those numbers up, that equals 105. And then what I'm going to use is my market research that I'm going to use some other tools for. There's several different ones out there that can give you this information. But I'm going to use that, and I'm going to look and say, I want to target like the 4th or 5th competitor. That's what my target is. Maybe you're targeting to be the number 1 guy on the page, so you're going to use that number. But I typically like to come in, because I don't want to over order, like what you said. If you get too aggressive, say I'm going to be number 1, maybe you screw up and you order way too many units. And so I like to go kind of in that average, that middle range of who's like the 4th or 5th, or sometimes I'll even take like the top 16, throw out the top guy, whoever's selling the most, just eliminate him from the calculation, eliminate the bottom guy from the calculation, and do the average. Mm-hmm. So let's just say, based on that, where you're targeting is 20 sales per day. So based on those numbers we added up earlier, that equaled 105, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. I would take that 105 times 20 sales per day is what my target is. Let's say that's what the 4th best competitor is selling. And then that tells me how many I need to order. So in this particular case, what's 105 times 20? What's 2,100 units. So I would order 2,100 units. And now if that ordering 2,100 units of these was more than what my budget could allow, I don't have enough money to do that, then I might choose another product, or I might try to come up with the money if the data really justified it. But that tells me where I need to play. I see so many people, they order 500 units or 1,000. And yes, you can sell some and you can make some money, and there's nothing wrong with doing a smaller amount. But if you want to come and compete and play in today's Amazon market, you got to come to the table with all your chips. And so that's how I calculate how much I need to order on a new product.
Cool. So you had mentioned, if you run out of stock for more than 30 days, it can affect your rankings, or it can be difficult to get back into it. Do you still close? This is something we talked about at some point on one of the podcasts. Do you still close that product listing if you run out, or do you not do that anymore?
Yeah, I do. You do? Yeah, I do use that tactic to close the listing. It's a little scary for some people, but yes, I do that. And typically it'll, say it had a BSR of 5,000 when I closed it. It might slip a little bit, down to like 10 or 12,000 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then it goes off the charts. When you close it, it goes to the little dash in there. But as soon as I come back in stock, and you can activate it again once you ship in inventory. You don't have to wait for the inventory to arrive, or you can wait till the inventory arrives. You can do it either way. But I usually wait for the inventory to arrive because you can ship in with it still being closed. And then I will reactivate it. It might start at number, if I ended at 12,000, it might come on at number 38,000 or something, but it quickly gets back up there almost every time. That's
a super ninja hack, by the way. Hardly anybody does this. And it's scary. Like you said, it's scary because when you hit that, it says, are you sure you want to close this listing? You're like, it's scary looking.
The only time I've had a hiccup in that is the way you reactivate it is you just go and basically modify the listing. You just go in and like you're going to edit it. And a lot of times I'll just like delete an S and then add the S back and hit submit, just whatever, just some random thing. And a few times it actually hasn't gone from the closed state back to active. So I've had to call or put in a ticket, or I usually call, and someone at seller support on Amazon can just, within 10 minutes, it's back up and live. Okay. Sometimes there's just a little hiccup. So if that happens to you, don't freak out.
Cool. All right. Question. Let's go to, I'm going backwards. I was at 5. I'm going to go to number 4. We'll call them mistakes. They're not questions. Let's call them mistakes. So that was mistake number 5, where people order the wrong amount of inventory. Okay, so mistake number 4, focusing on the wrong things. I get a lot of questions in our Facebook group, at conferences that we attend, that make it super clear that people are focusing on the wrong things. So if you had to choose, which 2 things would you recommend to sellers to focus on, regardless of the product that they choose, okay, to ensure that they're profitable in the end?
Well, the number one thing is to look at what you have left over, not how much you turn over. So that's the number one thing, but that's really not what I would so much focus on. A lot of people, you see big sales numbers and they can be impressive. You see them on webinars where people are trying to sell you courses, or you see them, other sellers will post their screenshots, but you really don't know what those people are actually making. I mean, sales are nice and big sales are nice, but who cares? It's what you take home. I know a lot of people who maybe only do 50,000, their screenshot is $50,000 a month on Amazon, and other people show you a screenshot where they're doing $1 million, and the guy doing 50,000 is actually making more money, and he's living a much more comfortable and less stress-free life. So it just all depends on your goals. But there's a couple areas people often overlook at actually maximizing your profit in this business that I think are critical. The first one is the thing you don't have really control over is the market conditions. You don't have control over what the price is ultimately going to be. You may decide what your price is going to be, but your competitors that come into the market, or market conditions or supply and demand, can affect what that actual sales price may be. So you may think, I'm going to sell this at $19 and I'm buying it for $5, and I've got a great margin. But once you get it launched, the market may say, no, this is only going to be a $13.99 product. And so you just cut your margins overnight, and you don't really have control over that. But what you do have control over is how much you pay for that product. So a lot of people don't focus enough on the sourcing part, on actually getting the absolute best price possible. That doesn't mean cut corners, because you have to be careful of that in China. If you just beat them up over price, they'll just make an inferior product. But actually knowing where to source and knowing how to source properly, and not just taking what Alibaba spits out, can make all the difference in the world. Because a lot of times in China, they will take advantage of people, especially if they know there's some signs. There's like, I think I teach in one of my deals, there's like 10 signs that instantly tell you that you're a newbie. And just the way you email a potential supplier, immediately they're going to know, okay, can we take advantage of this guy? So I see people are paying $5 for a product. Someone else is getting the exact same quality, if not better quality, for $2. So they have more play. So that's critical, is focus on the sourcing side and getting the best quality at the best price. And that can make a bigger difference in your business than looking at the other way. How much can I sell this for? And you have more control over that. The other one is setting your business up for sale. Some of the best money in this business is not in the daily, not in your monthly turnover, is actually in selling this business. It's leverage. Mm-hmm. I know so many people that have come into this business that were doing pretty good, making maybe 20 grand a month, and and they sell the business, for a good multiple of that, and walk away with maybe $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. And you say, why would you do that? You got a successful business that's doing $20,000 a month, $240,000 a year. That's a great business because you can get a big hit of cash, and then you can just come in and repeat the process and do it again. You can leverage. It's the whole thing about real estate, is make sure when you're setting this up, be thinking long-term. Don't be thinking short-term cash flow. Be thinking long-term. What do I got to do to position my product or my brand or my business, my accounting, all those kinds of things to sell this in a year, 2 years, 3 years. And you're going to make a hell of a lot more money if you approach this business that way.
Cool. I agree. And I'm going to be talking about that, guys, next year. Me and Kevin have talked about selling a business, and I've been wanting to do that. So perfect. All right, Kevin, mistake number 3. You see it in every course that's out there, every training. People put way too much emphasis, in my opinion, on BSR. So I'm going to ask you, though, when it comes to product selection, okay, we know there's multiple tools out there, multiple places you can go that can help somebody figure things out. But I tend to see this recurring issue where people are putting way too much emphasis on BSR to make their product selection decisions. It's always like the BSR's got to be this, got to be that. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, like you said, there are a lot of tools out there. I have some of my favorites that I use, but there are a lot of tools that will evaluate, and they all use BSR as the benchmark to actually do some sort of estimate on what this product sells per month or per day or whatever. But you got to be very, very careful on how those tools are getting that number, because you can be misled extremely easily. You really need to look at, if you're going to use BSR, you really need to look at it over an average period of time. Some tools out there will actually just show you, like, this is what it's selling right now. And BSR can fluctuate wildly during the day if they're doing a promotion or whatever, and you can make some really poor decisions if you're not careful. I mean, my product we talked about earlier, last year I did 1.2 million. I think my best-selling product had an average BSR probably about 5,000. I don't shoot for the moon here, and I don't try to have these top 1,000 BSRs. Occasionally I might sneak in there at Christmas, something sells really well, or I do a promotion, but I really don't look for that. I don't really care what my BSR is. I only use it as a relative number to see, if say the sales are down one day. I log into Seller Central and say one day I usually do 5,000, let's say, on this day, and today I'm only doing 3,000. I'm like, okay, what the hell's going on? Is it seasonal? Is something wrong? So I looked and see if my BSR has fluctuated too much, because it's all relative to everybody else. And if I've had a huge drop, then I'm like, okay, Amazon just messed with the algorithm. They just did something, or maybe I got a bad review. That's how I use BSR. I don't really care where my BSR is. I care about what I sell. There's a lot of products that have BSRs of 5 or 10,000 that sell 10 or 20 a day and are very, very profitable. There's also something a lot of people forget when they're evaluating all these tools is outside factors. Someone that may actually have a BSR of 300, let's say, and is killing it, say in beauty, they have a beauty product, for example, and they're just killing it. And you're like, holy shit, you're looking at all these tools like, man, I can get a piece of that action. If I just had 10% of that, I could do well. But what you don't know is, are they influencing that outside of Amazon? So you have to be very, very careful with using BSR as the only as the main evaluator, because you have to also look at keyword demand. So when I see a product that's doing that well, when I'm evaluating it, I also look at the keyword demand. I do a reverse ASIN, and then I see what's the keyword estimated demand. If those two don't jive, if the keyword demand on this is like, say, 10,000 searches a month, when this guy's got a BSR of 300, he ain't getting that. He's either one of two things. He's not getting it off of that keyword, his sales. It's some other keyword. I need to figure it out and focus on that. Or he's doing outside promotion. He's got his own website, his own Facebook group, influencers. Maybe they got just featured on a TV show or something. There's something else at play, and you can't overlook that, because it can make a huge difference when you're evaluating products. Yeah.
And the other thing, and just to clarify, because I think some people get hung up on BSR, it can fluctuate wildly from day to day. So if you, Kevin, for example, or you're launching a product, you're going to give away a lot of products. You're going to discount them, or you're going to be promoting them like crazy for the first 7 days, 10 days. So your BSR is going to be spiked. And if somebody actually is using a tool and happens to run across your product at that time, and they look and they're going to see, holy crap, this guy is, selling 200 units a day on this product. And then right after that, when you stop your promotions, you were doing that for ranking of keywords. You drop down to a normal, let's say 30 or 40 units a day. They're basing their numbers off of this tool, which was looking at that specific date. Mm-hmm. So, and like you said, some tools will just take whatever the BSR is of that exact date and then multiply that over the month. And other tools will look at averages if they've been tracking that particular ASIN. So. Yeah,
you got to be very careful. This business is all about numbers. I mean, the successful sellers on Amazon that are killing it, it's all about analyzing numbers, using tools to analyze numbers and spot opportunities. That's the name of the game on Amazon. It's statistical analysis.
Yeah, cool. All right. Mistake number 2 that I see happens all the time. You're in our FBA higher rollers group. You probably see this question 6 times a day. It's a short-term mentality. I'd like to say that, the gold rush is over, right? People, there have been opportunities. Let's go back. There's been opportunities where people have capitalized on these opportunities and made themselves rich, made their descendants rich. California gold rush from the 1800s, for example. But I've heard multiple people in our group say that the Amazon gold rush is over, right? It's way too competitive. The Chinese are moving in and taking over. The market is saturated, whatever it is. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is true?
I completely disagree with that. I think it's better than ever, actually, right now. Now, better doesn't mean easier. Those are two different things.
Good point.
A few years ago, it was easier. There's a lot of people. I mean, I know people in this business that don't even know how to create a shipping label that are multimillionaires. I mean, they were right place, right time, and it was a lot easier. The early days of some of the early courses that were out there and stuff. But I think it's actually better now. Amazon is growing rapidly, even in the U.S. But forget even the U.S. Look at all the international markets, Germany and Japan. What's happening there? I think the opportunity to change your life is still completely here on Amazon, and there's been nothing else like it in the history of mankind, really, that's been to rapidly grow, that freaks bankers out. I mean, you can get from $0 to $1 million in this business faster than any kind of brick and mortar business could ever hope to get, with a lot less overhead and a lot less effort. So, but what you got to do is you got to treat this as a real business. This is not a get rich quick. Do people hit the lottery? Yeah, some people hit the lottery, and you'll see some of these sales numbers in different courses where they'll say, look, my student did this much. But what you don't know, again, is what they took home, and it's that's not the norm. But the people that are making this a real business, and like I said earlier, developing a brand that you can actually sell, are the people that are cleaning up, and those opportunities are great. I mean, based on Amazon's data, I think in 2016, so it's a little over year-old data or so, over 80,000 sellers like us, like me and you, Manny, did over $100,000 on Amazon. That's incredible. I mean, where else in the world can you do that? I mean, there's not that many on eBay. So with the right skill set, which can be learned, I mean, the beauty about this business, you don't have to know all this e-commerce thing and everything coming into it. You can learn the proper skill set. Now, there's people that teach checkbox things, do this, do this, do this. Here's the 10 steps, to how to find a product on Amazon. And that's what everybody's doing. But if you have the basics, the real skill set, which can be learned, fairly quickly, you can kill it with this. And there's something I always I see people overcomplicating this. They start chasing shiny objects and, oh, should I do this tactic or should I do this tactic? And selling on Amazon, don't overcomplicate it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of really cool ninja things you can do. And sometimes, in Illuminati Mastermind, we teach some of those to the high-level guys. But once you're at that level, then you can worry about those. But when you're just beginning, or you're doing 10K a month, 15K a month, or something, focus on the 4 basic things that really matter, and become a master at picking products, not following a formula that everyone else says it has to be this weight, this size, this price, because that's what everybody else is doing. Be a master and have the skills and know how to pick a product. Then know how to create a really good listing. And how to do proper keyword research. That's the second key element to being successful in this business. The third is knowing how to launch a product. I mean, you really need to know, the first month is critical when you launch a new product, but you need to know can you get people to realize you even have this product? How do you get traffic? How do you get reviews? How do you use the ad system? That's the third main thing. And the fourth is just rinse and repeat, basically. If you just focus on those 4 key competencies, you can do very, very well, and don't get sidetracked with all this other stuff. You can do very, very, very well in this business.
Yeah. And I think another big key component of this is mentorship and finding the right person to follow, because you and I have seen this. There's some really old information floating around, still being taught, in fact, in courses and in different places where if you follow that, it's just going to be difficult. You're going to be competing with a billion people. You're going to be potentially just leaving a lot of money on the table, maybe even failing. I see it all the time. I'm like, don't do that. Do this instead. And you can't teach everybody, obviously, but I agree. Focus, find somebody that really knows what they're doing. You're crushing it. Somebody should listen to what you're saying versus somebody who, I guess, only sells how to sell or whatever it might be, right?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of people that, there's a lot of people that get in this business, and, they say in like the gold rush that there's the people that came for the gold rush, but the people that really got rich were the ones selling the axes and the tools. And so there's a lot of people that get into this business and they either don't make it very well, or maybe they do. There's some that do, but then they start doing courses or starting Facebook groups or whatever. And some of these guys aren't really selling much. There's a lot of free stuff out there that's just parroting what someone posted on a Facebook group. And a lot of times there's a lot of misinformation. I don't know how many times I see really, really bad advice in some of the free Facebook groups that becomes like standard knowledge. It's just absolutely wrong. So yeah, you got to be careful. But that's why I'm saying if you have the skills, don't follow a formula. If you have the skills and how to think for yourself and how to approach products, how to analyze everything, you can blow everybody out of the water. And that's the key to success in this, is have that proper foundation. And unfortunately, a lot of the courses just don't teach that, because everybody wants to get rich quick. And what's the fastest way that I can quit my job next week?
Yeah.
And it's just not reality. I mean, something like 90% of the people that take these courses either never launch a product or never make any money. It's because they don't have the fundamental skills. And so that's what you need. And there's ways to get that. And that can really help you be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So mistake number 1. Here we go, Kevin. You ready? We're down the last one. So we've been to tons of conferences together, events. We've thrown our own event in Mexico. We've met sellers from all walks of life, all experience levels, guys that are just starting out to guys that are doing $1 million. They have done more than $1 million in a day. What would you say is the number 1 mistake that sellers make that causes their business to ultimately fail?
Not properly doing their cash flow. Cash flow is where everything is at in this business.
Are you talking about actually getting the cash to start the business, or not managing it once you get going?
It's both. But having, for a purpose of what we're talking about right here, is having enough cash to start and do this. A lot of people, they can't scale. They're like, man, how can I can't get to, how do these guys get into $100,000 a month? I just can't get past 10,000. It's because A, it could be in your product selection, or B, it's like you came to it with the wrong mentality on cash flow. A lot of people think, how much money do I need to, people ask this all the time, how much money do I need to start? And you hear people on podcasts, you hear people in courses, oh, you can do it with $100, $500. Some people now are saying, the number keeps creeping up a little bit. A lot of people are now saying like $1,000. Absolutely, you can start doing this with $1,000. But are you going to turn $1,000 into $100,000 a month in a short period of time? It's highly, 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 highly unlikely. But are you going to make a little bit of profit? You could, but it's going to be difficult. I recommend most people start with whatever their initial inventory order is. So if you like that first mistake we talked about earlier, where people order the wrong amount. Let's say it was 2,100 units. I think that's what it was. Mm-hmm. Say it was 2,100 units, and let's say you're getting those for $1 a piece, whatever it is. It's a spatula or something for $1 a piece. So you got to spend $2,100. I recommend people start with 2.5 times that initial investment. So if your initial order of those 2,100 units is going to take $2,100 of your money, you basically need about $5,000 to have a chance to really succeed and scale quickly. And if your goal is to get financial freedom, or to quit your job, or to travel the world and do this remotely, whatever your reasons for doing this are, if you come to it with that mentality, it's going to be better. Because the thing that people forget about is, if you launch and you do this thing properly, you're going to need to order that second order before the first order. You've even been paid for the first order. You need money for stuff like, you hear people say, I've got 40% profit margins or 60% profit margins or whatever it may be. And I usually just laugh and say bullshit. I mean, there may be a few products that actually have that, but they're not factoring everything in. That may be their margin between their cost and what it sells for, but they're not factoring everything in. There's stuff like logo design, trademarks, product photography, cost of listing, samples, custom fees, freight, packaging, what payment transfer fees, launching fees, giveaways, inspections. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Refunds. I know, it keeps going.
Refunds, storage fees.
Right.
There's a laundry list of things you got to think about, and most people don't think about all that. And so they may see that there's money coming into their bank, and every 2 weeks, there's a nice deposit coming in, but they're like, cool, I got some money, but you may not be making any money. You may have cash, but you don't have cash flow. So you really got to understand that, and most people don't. I mean, I have a spreadsheet that I use that's really powerful, and it will actually tell me from month to month, okay, this month my bank account balance is going to be negative $3,000. Next month is going to be positive, so I can actually see what kind of cash do I really need if I'm going to launch this product. And I do that before I even launch a product. And sometimes I find a really good product that I'm really happy about and like really excited about, but I do the cash flow analysis and like, fuck, I can't do this, man. How am I going to do this? I got to get an investor, get a loan. So I might have to find another product. So a lot of people don't really properly do that. A lot of people in this business, I bet if you ask most Amazon sellers, a lot of them really can't tell you what they're truly making. If they did, they would be telling you that in all the free webinars. People wouldn't be saying, look, I got to $1 million of sales in a year. At Amazon, there's courses that say we make Amazon millionaires. But $1 million in sales is $1 million in your pocket. It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
You have to think about that, and you have to think about that in the beginning. It's like, what if I do become this number? What if I'm shooting for number 4, like we said earlier in that example, but I'd become number 1? You're going to need more money. So you need to have a plan up front. Like, okay, if this really takes off and works, where am I going to get that? Am I going to dip into my savings? Do I have a buddy who's willing to invest? Do the bank give me a loan? Where am I going to get that to sustain the growth, the rapid growth? And a lot of people overlook that stuff.
Okay. And then where do they get that?
There's lots of places to get that kind of stuff. I mean, there's companies that specialize once you've been up and selling for a while. This is not true for new sellers, but that specialize in giving Amazon loans. There's expensive places like On Deck and Cabbage, and that if you've been in business for 3 months to a year, you can start getting that. But a lot of people at the beginning, they've got to go to use credit cards. You can go to bankrate.com, get 0 interest credit cards. Some of those have courtesy checks you can write to yourself for a 3% fee. So you basically pay a 3% interest. Or you may have to dip into your own savings or come to it with enough money or get a friend to invest. And there's lots of ways to do it. I mean, we covered, like, I think in Illuminati, we did a whole course or a whole lesson on, was it
20 plus, yeah, sources.
20 plus ways to actually get money.
That's crazy.
I talked about it in detail, but yeah, you got to be ready for that.
Yeah.
And so that's what you never hear that. You see these numbers that people are spouting out, and what they don't tell you, because it's not as glamorous. It's like, yeah, I got to $1 million in sales and I started with, $5,000 or $1,000. But what they don't tell you is that 2 months in, they had to go to the rich uncle and get $50,000 loan to keep it going.
Yeah.
To make it work. This is a very it can be a very good business. It can scale rapidly using Amazon, but it can also be very cash intensive, and you need to be ready for that. And depending on your level of comfort and risk, that's going to determine what kind of product you choose as well, and what you want to do.
And this goes back to what you said earlier, where if you guys are doing this and you can build your business up for a year and a half, let's say, that's usually kind of like that point where you can really sell a business for a good multiple. At that point, you can walk away with a big amount, right? You can walk away with $1 million cash or whatever the amount might be, but that's a nice payday. I
know somebody that, people are always like, when can I quit my job? I hate my job. I'm ready for the freedom. I know somebody in this business that started about 3 years ago. It's a husband-wife team. The husband kept his day job, and the wife did all the work, stay-at-home mom with the kids or whatever, did all the work. Mm-hmm. And he didn't quit his job until, I think, year 2. And they just kept reinvesting, didn't take a lot out to live on. But they just recently sold for, between $3 and $4 million, and walked away with that in cash. So if you look at it from that point of view, not to quit my job and do this immediately, and have a bunch of money to live on, in 3 months from now, long term. And now what they're going to do, and I know a lot of people that do this, some people in Illuminati have done this. They sell a product or a couple products. They get that big hit of cash, 500,000, $1 million, $3 million or plus in this other case.
And then do it again.
And then they just say, okay, now I've got 500, I've got enough money to play. Now I can come play with the big boys. Using that formula I told you earlier, they can go play at the high level and the high competitive level because they got their own money. They got $100,000 or $500,000 that they can set aside. Let's do this again. And I'm walking with $2.5 million, put that in the bank and live off the interest if they're frugal, and they're set.
Right.
So you got to look at it right. Don't look at it as get rich quick and quit your job, but look at this as the opportunity it really is. And you really need those skills and that fundamentals to actually to build this and approach it correctly.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I want you to talk about, I don't know what I'd call it, about bonus hack or a bonus strategy. And I'm going to throw this at you. So I want you to think of that for a second. But before we get into that, let's tell people what we're going to be doing, because we are putting together, we kind of hinted at this earlier, doing a webinar, and it's pretty cool. Kevin's going to come on and just dump nuggets. Why don't you tell people about it, where they can go to actually register, and and then I'm going to ask you about this little bonus, the final bonus hack question. This is going to be one that people can walk away with, something cool.
Yeah. We're doing a webinar. Basically, I'm going to show you. I see so many mistakes out there, and so many courses and free videos. They just, in my opinion, they just teach you just a little bit of stuff, and they don't really fill in all the gaps. And so we're going to be doing a webinar where I'm going to really show you my process for choosing products, because that's where I see most people get hung up. A lot of new people, they're like, man, I've been trying to find this product for 3 months or 6 months, or they're nervous to pull the trigger. Is this the right one? Is this the right one? I'm going to show you how I pick like 10 really profitable products in 2 days. No more than 2 days of my time, I'm done. I don't spend a lot of time. I take nuggets like 3 times a year, 4 times a year. I sit down for 2 days. Okay, I'm going to find my products. Then those are my products. I'm done. I don't agonize over it. I'm going to show you that process that I use and the formulas I use to find those successful products. And I'm going to give you more in depth and more knowledge about how to really analyze it for yourself. Not here's a checkbox. Does it fit in the shoebox? Does it fit? Is it weigh this much and cost this much? But really to look at this from what your goals are and what you can do and where the opportunities are. And I'm going to show you the tactics that I use to get to over $1 million. I've spoken on a lot of podcasts. I've been on a lot of podcasts. I don't know, 10 or 15 different podcasts. I've been, spoke at events, and I've never talked about this before. I've never talked about it in Illuminati. I gave a few little things in the Illuminati mastermind to the high-level guys, but I'm going to be going into detail and showing a really good process that I use. And so I'd love to, it's completely free, and I'd love to have you guys come out. It's at freedomticket.com. It's freedom, FREEDOM, ticket, TICKET.com. You can just go and register. I don't know, Manny, how big the room is going to be, but I know your last webinar you did with I think it was Tryon. It was like you had people on a list that couldn't get in.
We messed up. Yeah, it was supposed to be 2,000 people, and for whatever reason, it locked to 1,000 when we started, and it filled up before the thing even got started. Nobody could get in. So we're going to try with yours to make sure. We're going to test this out and see if we can do the 2,000 seat. If not, it'll be 1,000. But yeah, guys, that's going to be at freedomticket.com. Going to be really cool. I'm going to be hosting it. Kevin's going to be just opening up his mind on how he does stuff. It's going to be really cool. You're going to walk away with just a ton of value. Okay. It's just going to be an incredible opportunity to learn a lot. And just like all of the stuff that we put out there, we're putting our names on this. Kevin's really putting his name on this to make sure that hopefully you walk away saying that was one of the best webinars I've ever been on, or maybe the best webinar. So it's also, Kevin, this is geared more towards the beginner seller. Right? It's
both. Before I do a webinar like this, I like to make sure that it's solid. So I actually took this webinar and I brought in a few guys just to present just to get their reaction. And there was a couple brand new sellers. They don't even have a product on Amazon. There's one guy that was selling like 40 or 50,000 a month. Another guy was doing like 10, 15. Another guy, he had launched a product and it just wasn't working. It was just like stagnant. He's like, what did I do wrong? I thought I picked the right product. Mm-hmm. I thought I knew what I was doing. And so I showed them. All of them were like, holy cow, man. I was missing this information. I've done these other free courses. I've done a couple paid courses, but this was missing. So I want to share that with you because I want people to succeed. There's plenty of opportunity out here. And you know what? I have it in it. I might even share a few of my products. I'm not sure yet. I have it in there, but a lot of people don't ever like to show their real products. It's all these hypothetical things, but I may, show you some real stuff.
And you took a new person too. You took Sheila, who was at our Illuminati live conference event, and she was just helping out there. She hasn't sold on Amazon. I believe she went through this as well, right?
Yeah, she went through it as well, and she was like, I learned more. It had taken a tremendous amount of podcasts and tremendous amount of. I've done 3 other paid courses, and I never heard this stuff before. I've listened to every Manny podcast, AMPM podcast. I started at the beginning. I've listened to all the other podcasts. Yeah. And those are good, and that's a good thing to do. Which is like this really filled in all the gaps and really completed it. So I'm hoping to be able to do that for you as well. Cool. So I'd love to have you there, and hopefully I can help you, whether you're brand new or whether you've been selling for a while. So I'm going to show you some cool tools and cool ways to look at things.
Perfect. So freedomticket.com, guys, go register, check it out. You have nothing to lose. Hopefully you're going to walk away with some cool stuff. That said, Kevin,
I think Manny too. I know that first thing we talked about, it's kind of hard to visualize that how I said how to actually determine how much to order. Some people might be listening to. I know this is video on YouTube, but some people might be listening in their car while they're working out right now, and they didn't catch it. So if someone wants a spreadsheet, I'll make a little simple spreadsheet of that. And when you register, if you want, I'll just make if it's okay with you and Guy, we can just let people download that spreadsheet if you want to that might help.
Yeah, we could do that. We'll figure out how to get that to people who register and come out to the webinar. Cool. Yeah, that would be cool to actually visually see everything. It's a good idea. I like that. So
yeah, I think that'll help people.
Cool. All right. Well, you didn't throw me off here. We have one more bonus hack or question or awesome thing.
Can't give all my secrets away.
No,
come on.
No, so this one's not going to be too hard. So you've mentioned it. You're one of the lead mentors in the Illuminati Mastermind. You do a lot of advanced training. Obviously, we want to keep the podcast a little bit more newbie friendly. That's what we try to do. But what would be a strategy or a hack or something, or let's talk, you and I can actually talk about it and have a discussion about it. Something that could help both new and seasoned sellers. What could we talk about? That would be pretty cool. And I've got an idea. If you don't come up with one, I don't mean to throw you under the bus here.
Yeah, I would say, so if new or someone selling, I would say the number one thing, it's like I was talking about earlier, make sure you have the proper skill set and think outside the box. Don't approach this as a cookie cutter business. There's not one way to make money on Amazon. There's no single course that is the best way. I don't care who the course is. There's some great courses out there and some good stuff, but there isn't one that this is the way. This is the way. Every day on Facebook, I see another ad for how to sell on Shopify, how to make money on Amazon. This is the way. Bullshit. There isn't one. There's 20 different ways to skin this cat. The way you make money is you have the proper skill set and know how to analyze it. So think outside the box. A lot of people
thinking outside the box. What about thinking outside the shoebox? You want to talk about regular sizes?
Yeah, there's a lot of money in oversized products. A lot of people shy away from them. Because they're bulkier. They're maybe more. Some people think they're more complicated to ship over. They're no more complicated in most cases to ship over than a small thing. Once you've done it the first time, it's a little scary. Maybe some people, you can typically order less, and the margins are great. The great thing about selling big products. They could be oversized. It could be things that weigh, 3 or 4 pounds. They don't fit in that shoebox, weigh less than a pound, sell for $20, and can be air freighted. That's the general formula that everybody teaches. And that's and then they teach, use these tools out there to look for between this BSR and this, and and everybody's doing the same thing. And then you wonder why you found a golden product. You posted your screenshot of the tool on a Facebook group, and people are like, "Oh, that's great! You should go for it." By the time you get it launched, there's 20 other people selling, and you're like, "Holy cow! What the hell happened?" You got to think outside the box. Look at big products because there's less competition. The A cost on the PPC is dramatically lower. If you're selling a $50 or $100 item, even if the ad costs you $5, and it's not in most cases, but even if it does, that A cost, you can absorb that a lot better than if you're selling a $15 or $20 product.
Let's go through. Hold on. Let's go because you're going to go through these really quickly. Let's talk about these one at a time. PPC is perfect, right? So pay per click, guys. You're absolutely right. If you're into a product and it sells for $100 on Amazon, first of all, there's less people that are actually sourcing this. So that means there's less people that are actually bidding for the keywords for this product. So the actual cost that you're paying per click drops substantially, or should, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's one reason, okay, is pay-per-click costs are always going to be lower. The second reason, let's go through these one at a time.
Sure. Well, there's less, like you said, there's less competition. The costs are lower. The next one is it typically takes less reviews to actually get going. I mean, so you don't need, a lot of times these big products, they don't sell as many.
Right.
Typically. So the reviews, you need to be competitive, because reviews still do matter. I mean, a lot of people think you need tons and tons of reviews. 21 is the magic number to get social proof. You need to get to 21 to have that magic number statistically of social proof. But the only time you really need a lot more reviews is if and we'll talk about this in the free webinars, if a lot of your top competitors have a lot of reviews, then you want to reconsider. But if they don't, the number of reviews a lot of times on these big products doesn't really matter. Even if one guy's got 1,000, you can still compete, with a smaller number. And so yeah, I mean, that's another big advantage.
That's a good point. Yeah, because we got people, you're right. If it's a $150 product, they're probably only selling, a handful of units a day, 10, 20 at the most, versus if it's a $1 product, a spatula you said earlier, where they're selling, 1,000 of these things every single day. The review count is going to be really, really high.
The MOQs are usually lower, but that doesn't mean you spend less. I mean, you may have to spend more money, but the MOQs, instead of 1,000, they might be 50 or 100 or something like that. Now, one thing you got to keep in mind is you still got to look at ROI. So profit margin matters, but you don't want to get into a product where you're ordering so many of them. If you had to order 1,000 of these big products and they sell 5 a day or something, that might not be the smartest product to choose versus something smaller that can turn quicker. So you got to look at the ROI, return on investment. That's basically how long does it take to get your money back that you're investing. So you have to consider that too. But there are a lot of golden opportunities in this big product space. I mean, you can scale faster too. I mean, people that are spouting off these big numbers, I always like to say that's great, but the first thing I do is if they put one of those screenshots is I look at their number of units. So sometimes they'll say, I sold $1 million last year, and it'll say, 20,000 units sold. Now, first thing I look at on every one of those when I see this, like, okay, I do a quick calculation in my head. All right, that's a $50 item, average price. I'm more impressed by someone doing $1 million a year selling something for $5 than I am for someone at a higher price. But that doesn't mean that's not a bad thing, because those people it's less hassle, less stuff to order, less stuff to keep track of. Yeah, it does come. You need to sell less, and you can get to your profit faster too.
It does come with a few headaches. We can't, skirt around that. You're only going to, for oversized products, you only have 500 units available at Amazon's warehouses versus, what is it now? Is it 2,000, 5,000? That keeps changing. Whatever that number is.
It's 500, but you can request that to go up. But by oversized too, that's, you have to go check the exact things, but like it's over 18 inches and there's certain things. But oversized I don't always just mean oversized. I think it can be also heavier.
Yeah, 20 pounds, I believe, over.
But no, I have products that don't fit in that shoebox formula that everybody else teaches, because these products are, they meet the dimensions of a standard product, but they might weigh 6 pounds, for example. But they're not considered oversized. Those are products that people typically shy away from as well. Yeah. So because it doesn't fit in a shoebox
criteria. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, get something that's 10 pounds, but still pretty small. But people won't see that because they're eliminating anything that's over 1 or 2 pounds. So, that's cool. We could go on about oversized. You are going to go on at freedomticket.com. When people register for the webinar, you're going to be talking about all kinds of sourcing stuff, and it'll be cool to see. I'm looking forward to see everything that you're presenting, and if you actually do reveal one of your products, that'll be interesting. So that said, guys, check it out. Please head over to freedomticket.com. You'll see me and Kevin in the webinar, and yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's been a while since we've actually, outside of the Illuminati Mastermind, since we did these webinars.
Yeah, it's been about a year since, or more, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, people are really loving those. So cool. So guys, that's all I got, Kevin. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see everybody over there at freedomticket.com. We'll see them in our FBA High Rollers group on Facebook. If you're not in there, you've got to get in there. And depending on whether you're listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so that you continue to get these. So that said, Kevin, have a good one. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk soon.
You've been listening to the AMPM podcast hosted by Manny Coates. For more information, insider tools, and to get the resources mentioned in this episode, visit ampmpodcast.com.